June and I were married in 1995. And when we were married, June had a real love for the Lord. And I had a real love for NASCAR and for golf. Every Sunday morning that we got up, either I was on the golf course or I was parked in front of the TV watching the Speed Channel, watching all the pre-race interviews. Every Sunday morning, June would stop on her way out the door at 9:30 and she'd say, "You know, church starts at 10:30. And I'd kind of look up and say, yeah, I know. And off she'd go, and back to the Speed Channel I would go. I did go to church from time to time. I would go, on Christmas and Easter, or if there was some kind of a musical thing going on at church, I would always go for that because I really always had a real good love for music. And I can remember being at the church one Sunday night after one of the choir specials, and I was on the pew with June's mother. The choir was through singing and the service was over, and she went down to the altar, and all of a sudden June's mother just hit me in the back of the head, and she said, "You know she's down there praying for you, don't you?" And then came February 18th of 2001. I was in front of the television. It was the Daytona 500, and it was the last lap of the race. And coming out of turn 4, Sterling Marlin's car drifted up into Dale Earnhardt's car and put him into the wall. And you could tell it was bad. It got very quiet on the television, and he was gone. The Intimidator was gone. I could remember thinking how sad for the sport. What a great hero he was to people that love racing. But the only thing that really crossed my mind was, who will I pull for? What will happen next week? How will the sport change? And really nothing more. The very next day, for me, life went on. I was, strangely enough, back in front of the television watching the Speed Channel again. And they were doing interviews with drivers and friends of Dale Earnhardt's. And I can remember they were interviewing Michael Waltrip, who was his teammate. He looked straight in the camera and he said, in the blink of an eye, he was with the Lord. I sat straight up in my chair. Something grabbed me. I had to be saved. The next Sunday morning, I was back in the chair again. I didn't say anything to anyone. June stopped on the way out the door at 9:30, and she says, church starts at 10:30. And off she went. And as soon as she left, I got up, I got dressed, I got in the car, and I went to the church. She was up in the choir. I was in the pews. At the end of the service, when the pastor said, has anybody prayed this prayer? I got up and I got out of the pews and I walked down to the aisle, and I got hold of the pastor and I told him, I said, I need to be saved. I can think back on the days now that the way my life was before. I know that we had people that would visit the house, and it was always on one Monday night, what I always referred to now, looking back, as the Monday night commando raids, but I didn't know it was people from church, June's friends, coming to try to share with me. I was brutal to those people. As they tried to share with me, I didn't want any part of it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know what they were trying to tell me. Now, there's been such a change in my life. I really hope that people can see in me the great grace and love that God has blessed me with, and not that person I was before. I'm not that man anymore. I'm changed.